President Fox, let me thank you for making this to happen, because you made it to happen in a special sort of way. You asked for my convenience, dates that I have free for you, and I did not realize that this is what is going to be. I thank you for making it to happen. I thought that for those of you who are going to determine our world 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now, maybe the best way for you to get prepared, in addition to the formal education that you are having, in addition to the interaction that you will continue to have among yourselves, in addition to the learning that you will be getting from among yourselves, there's nothing better than opportunity to interact with past leaders. Because if you have nothing at all to learn from them, you can learn from their mistakes. And there's no leader who, if he honestly exposes his trajectory of leadership, will say, oh, with the benefit of hindsight, I will do everything the way I had done them. And today, you have two leaders, without being modest, who are by any standard have been game changers. President Fox was by any standard a game changer in Mexico. I could again claim from the little you have heard of my resume to have been a game changer in Nigeria. But what is very interesting for both of us is that we did not throw in the towel and say, well, look, we've changed the game and that is all, no more. I think, like they say in my part of the world, we are retired, but we are not tired. Let me take my country, because I think if briefly I go over my own interface, my life interface with Nigeria, and then we can take it from there as to, for us to have interaction or interactive session. The the president of the university started from 1960. And that was a glorious year for us in Nigeria. All of us, young men and young women, were full of high expectation. At least, if nothing at all, we could run our affairs as well, if not better, than the colonial master had run it. That was our expectation. That was our hope. I was a young officer, having been commissioned into the British Army, because being an army officer before independence, it was Queen Elizabeth that signed my parchment of commission. So I was commissioned into the British Army in 1958. I came back to Nigeria after exposure in Britain and in Germany, because Germany was as close to anything that you can call a war situation. I returned home in 1959, and then 5 days after Nigeria's independence, I was one of those who became advance party to taking part in the first major UN peacekeeping operation in Democratic Republic of Congo of today. Then it was referred to as Congo-Leopoldville, Belgian Congo, then become independent Congo-Leopoldville. Well, what I saw then was a large country where not much was done in preparing that country for independence. I thought that things were bad in Nigeria in preparation for independence, but Congo, now Democratic Republic of Congo, was much worse. Well, then, of course, the situation in the country was too bad to be held with Katanga, with Jombe of Katanga, with Lumumba being killed, and with the Secretary General of the UN dying in the process. So very early in my own life as an adult, I became engrossed with international service, with global service, and I saw politics in Africa, in another country, at its worst. Then I came back to my country, and I was progressing in my military career. Then the unexpected happened in my own country. A coup took place. And then, of course, we went from one coup to another coup. And a civil war broke out. I then became the military commander that ended that civil war. Again, in my middle career, I saw the worst that any military man could see, actually facing the horror of war in my own country. I didn't join the army to fight Nigerians. I joined the army to protect Nigeria. But as it happened, and that war, I fought with maximum humanity and maximum humaneness. At the end of the war, I wrote a book. I said, during that war, I never used the word enemy to describe the other side because it was a civil war. We were fighting to bring them back. So I couldn't describe them as enemy. I never used the word hate to describe the relationship between us and the other side. After the Civil War, I continued with my military career. And then another coup took place. And the leaders of that particular coup got three of us together and said they are handing the affairs of Nigeria and the military to the three of us. And the three of us had no choice but to accept. I became number 2 in government, the number 1 man, and we were working frantically to lead the country back to democracy. In the process, the man who heads the government died in another attempted coup, and I had to take over responsibility for running the affairs of Nigeria. By then, of course, we had planned to lead the country to democracy, and I never went back on that. That program was faithfully implemented. I went out of the military and I became a farmer. And I thought and strongly believed that the military had no business in government. And I said that too loudly. So, of course, 4 years, 3 months after I had handed over to a democratically elected president, the military came back, and I condemned the coming back of the military. That earned me an imprisonment, and I was in jail for 3 years, 3 months, and 3 days for speaking against the military. And how did they do it? They woke up one day, the man woke up one day and said I was planning a coup against him. So he got a man to say that he was planning the coup with me. And the man, I said to him when he was confronted with me, I said, have I known you before? He said, not really. I said, then how could you and I be planning coup? He said, we are planning coup. And then, anyway, I was saved. Really, what saved me was the international community. Otherwise, I would have been killed. So I was in jail for 30 years. That was the jail term. I was sentenced to imprisonment of 30 years. And after 3 years, the man who sent me to jail died. And the man who took over from him released me 1 week after he died. And then the Nigerians across the nation started asking me to come back. And this time, I contested the election. And I won. And as I was saying to the group of students we met earlier, I was the first Nigerian, indeed, maybe the first African who won an election without a tribal base, because my tribe refused to vote for me, which is unusual. In Africa, you normally have a tribal base to climb to political power. Well, what we did over those 8 years are some of the things that made me regard myself as a game changer. And it was on that occasion that I first met President Fox. And I look at his life, and there's a bit of similarity from his life and mine. He started politics from the top. After being in the private sector, I started politics from the top after being in the military. And what will I say to you really are the things that we should look for? You know, the world has been described as a village. I think it's even becoming closer than a village. It's becoming more like a room where we are all living in. And whatever happens to you is felt by everybody in the room. And if the tap in the room is bad, it affects everybody. If the toilet is bad, it stinks to everybody. So we now have a world where there is confluence. We all talk about democracy. Whether you are in China, in the US, in India, or in Russia, or in Nigeria, we all like that word democracy. Of course, there's no one way of practicing democracy. But it's something that is appealing, and I believe that in the world we are in today and the world that will be opening in front of us in the few years to come, or in the foreseeable future, democracy will be the order of the day. Again, we are talking of market economy. It's the common language to all of us. And wherever we may be, whether in Mexico, in Argentina, in Canada, or in Bangladesh, or in Tanzania, we will be talking of market economy. We will be talking of production. We will be talking of humanity, and that is the note on which I will want to end. What can we do individually, collectively? How can you prepare yourself to be of service to humanity? Not just to your family, not just to your community, because if we are all living in a room where what we do will affect each and every one of us in the room, what can we do to make that room a wholesome location for us to enjoy our living there together? Ethics, value, orientation, believe, and then, of course, how do we relate to one another. I believe that that is what should be uppermost in our leaders today, in our leaders tomorrow, and in our leaders in the foreseeable future. Thank you very much.